Fine, this is a part 2 video of Laravel project. So in this project we are creating restaurant management system. So in the part 1 what we have done is we have created the menu and the categories. So this is how we create categories. So dinner, weekend, breakfast, and the menu is created on a particular and added to the particular category with the help of foreign key relationship, which we have done it on the part 1. Now it's time to create the table. So every restaurant will have a table. The customer sits on a table, and here on the billing management, while billing, what we'll do is this on this table a particular product is purchased at this amount, so we'll store this value in the database. So for that we have to insert the number of tables that is available in our restaurant into the database. So as like what we did for the category, here we have added category on the create. If you see, we have added category. Now here the same thing we are going to add table. So I'm just going to repeat the same step what we have done for the category, just by naming. Here it is going to be create table, and here this is going to be table name, and here one more column will be available, which is called available. So while creating, we will make the table default available to default available. So we won't be making changes while editing. Like if I click on edit, the available status, the column called status won't be changed, but we can edit the name of the table. That's what we are going to do. So enough with the explanation. Now let's get into the project. So here this is the Laravel project. Simply the CRUD operation which we have done, about 10 CRUD operation which is available on the playlist, starting from very zero to the expert level. So I won't be discussing, or I won't be explaining each steps very clearly, because we have already added 10 videos on a playlist, so that will do the job. So here I'll just keep on doing what I used to do. Fine. Now I'm going to create the table controller. So to create the table controller, you have to quit the server because the server is already running. So let's quit the server, Control C, PHP artisan make controller. The name of the controller is going to be management slash, which is the folder name. Inside that, table controller with the resources. So unexpected argument, name, too many argument, PHP artisan make controller, and the name of the controller with resources. Let's add slash over here as well. Let's check. Yep. So if you got stuck anywhere, you are free to look into the Laravel documentation which is available. So here at present we are working on the Laravel 6 version. So we have to make sure the 6 is selected, and just type controller. Here you see, but we need resources. And the name of the controller is going to be table, which will be available on the folder management. We are in the particular project. Fine, click enter. So it says the table is created successfully. So the controller created successfully. What mistake what we did? I don't able to find it. So if you find anything, just comment it. Fine. Now we have made the resources. To check the resource, to add the resources, what you have to do is you have to get into the web.php. I have to open the Visual Studio Code. I'll pause it and open it. So let's get into web.php, which is available on routes, web.php. We have to define the URL here, which we have already done it a couple of times. Now let's define the URL as table, and we have to pass the table name, controller name, which we have created right now using command prompt. Once this is done, PHP artisan route list, just enter. Made a mistake, it's not lister, it's list. Control C to quit server. Now we'll get the list of route list of URL. Now we have got the list of route URLs. Let's save this on a paint, and so that we don't have to visit again and again. So here we have the URLs. Print screen. I'm pausing it and pasting it on paint and show view on the browser. So you see I have opened this on the browser. So let me pin this. Now the first thing, to show the page, we have to get into the function called index, and the relevant URL is management/table. So when we search the management/table on the URL, the relevant function takes care of the work. So let's close this paint, we don't need it anymore. So the controller, so here the work is going to be very similar with the work of category controller. So I'm going to open the category controller, not the model, which will be available on HTTP controller. So on the management folder we have category controller, and then we have table controller. So we are going to return the view as we did for the category. So here it is going to be, let's make it show table. Control T, enter. So we have to make this view on the resource folder, resources, views, management. Just save the same file as show tables.relate.php. I'm following the camel case. Make sure the camel case is also available over here. So create table. Create table here. So if I click, let's get into the sidebar. We have sidebar somewhere here. So the same URL we need to pass it for the table, because we have added this on the web.php. So if I click, we have to refresh this. So make sure your server is running. Minimize this. PHP artisan serve. It's running. Refresh this. Click on the table. So there's an error. So if I click on table, there is the error. You see, we have to add slash, or we have to remove hash. Table. Now it's still loading. It says categories undefined because while copy pasting we have copy pasted the whole section. We don't need this anymore. Refresh this. Again here the pagination value, just remove this. So you see table is available, but we know we need to create one more column, as I've told you, which is going to be status. Now it's time to create the model. So quit the server, Control C, PHP artisan make model. Name of the model is going to be table model, and with migration files, which is available on the database folder. And here we have to add two more columns, as I have shown you, which is going to be string. The first one is going to be name, and the second one is going to be what? name and status. By default it is going to be available. Fine, we have to make this PHP artisan migrate. The table would be created to check /php myadmin /php myadmin. So our server, so here you see table model is created, which would be blank with the columns name and status. So we'll pin this, we need this. Now creation, to create we have to add your management table create. So here we have to add create button. So the relevant URL is going to be table/create. So here the function table controller, we don't need this sidebar anymore, we don't need this web.php anymore, we need table controller. Here the create part will return a view just like this. So let's see what we have done. Here it says create new category, here we are going to make create new table. So again open the resources, views, management, create new category, save this as .blade.php, click enter. Now create new table, make sure wherever there is category just make this table. So we are going to make this name. Everything seems okay. Now just make sure server is running. Click on create table. We have to refresh this table, create table, and the URL you see. So you can see create new table. We can add this and click on submit, data will be added. So for that, to store the values we have to use management/table on the form action, management/table, and the relevant function that is going to take care here is store. So let's see what we have done. We have added whatever we need. The name is name of the attribute, name attribute is name. We have to use a model here, use app / table model. Just use this. By this we can access the column name and the name of the input field. We'll make this underscore table. Save this, display the success message saying table added, and redirect to the start page. Now we can test the submission. A1 is the table name. Click on submit. It is getting reloaded. It says not found. Management/table. Click on submit. It will go to management/table, and here it is going to work on store. Save and redirect. Redirect to the URL called table. Here the URL is table, not the thing. I think it will be saved. Click on table added. So table is added. If you click here on the browse, a table will be added with the value default available on the status column. Fine. Now we are able to add. Now we have to display all the values. To display all the values, so on the index page we have to work on. We have to get all the values and pass the value with function with and we can access this value on show index, show table. So here we have table body and we have to loop through. So to loop through, I'm not going to repeat it. On the create category, we'll use the same for each. Over here, just make sure the value passed is model as Control H dollar, replace this with tab. It has ID, it has name. The URL for edit is going to be table, and the URL for delete is going to be table. I'm sorry for that. Just replace this, the added columns or the added row over here, so if there is no error. Table where we are making error. Attempt to read ID on boolean. So if you find any mistakes, what you can do is just print this and take the for each out. Now you should see the values. The value is null. Put the value be null. So here we don't have to create the reference, we have to create the all function. And now data is available, and we need to add one more column called status. Press this, status is available. Now just delete this. If you want, you can add one more, and this time it is going to be A2. Click on submit, and A2 is also added. A2 added, and after that let's work on edit. So we have passed the URL, and we know the relevant function that is going to handle is edit. Just get the ID and pass to the view, and here it is going to be edit table. Table model, table, and on the edit we have to create a view, and that view will hold the single row what we have clicked on. So here edit category is the page, resources, views, management, edit category. Save this as edit table. Edit table dot blade dot php. So we can access this value over the edit table. Here just replace this with table. That's it. Name, and wherever category is there, make sure to add table. Let's see by clicking the table if there is no error. So A1 should be available. A1. So let's click on A2. Fine. Now over here, this value will be managed by a function called update. This will be very similar with the store. Instead of creating the object, we have to use the find eloquent and pass the ID from the URL. And fine, everything seems to be fine. Just click refresh. We'll make this as A3. Click submit or update. The name field is required, so I think I have not replaced the name. It is going to be name. So A3, click on update. Refresh this, make this A3, click on update, and A3 is updated. Fine. Now it's time to work on delete. So you know the delete function is taken care by delete. The same way, get the value from the ID, or we'll copy the same thing. Get the value from the URL, ID from the URL, and delete the single row. Table deleted, table, and this can be anything, so I'll leave it as it is. So let's refresh this and let's delete the A3 table. Table deleted. Fine. This is working because we have done from the scratch on the category, so there is no error. So in this case also, table also does not have any error. So if I create A2, click on submit. A2 is added. Let's again add one more thing, B1. So we have 4 tables in a restaurant. Actually it is B2. Let's edit this. Click on update. Fine. So if anytime you mistakenly added any table value, you can delete this. You can see the message, table deleted. Fine, this is working. So the CRUD operation for table is done. Alright, in this video we are going to add data table plugin to all the created pages. Likewise, if you see, the category has a table, the menu has a table, the table column or the table section has a table as well. So we are converting these into data tables. So for that, let's first jump into the categories. So this can be available on views, management, create category.blade. So here we have layout.app. So the layout folder, we have app. So this is the header. So this is a place where we are going to paste all the related CDNs. This is CSS. So link, so what we do is we just copy this, paste it over here, and in place of href just add the URL. And we have added the CSS files. Now let's add the JS files. Likewise, remove the src attribute and add the URL. Fine. Now we have to get into the individual file. we have a table called class, and what we can do is on the layout file we have a footer. So in this place we'll add the relevant JS inside script tag, and we have the class called table on every table element of the web page. Now if you see, and it doesn't seem to be working, what you can do is click on inspect, console, dollar is not defined. It says that Jquery is not defined in your file. So let's add the CDN for Jquery as well to get into the W3. So just with the bootstrap we have the CDN as well, so I'm just going to copy it. So if you see, this is for popper and this is for JS. So just above the script tag, just add this and just refresh it. Now there should be no error because we have added the dollar. The dollar refers to Jquery. Fine, the data table is now visible. Now if you see, there is some style issue, so we'll fix it now. Control minus. So you see our table is aligned over here. Let's get the table, and you see there is width. Why don't we make it 100%? So if we make this 100%, this would be visible. So just above here, or in the custom CSS file which we have created, which will be available on the public's CSS, custom CSS, and get the table class and add the width attribute, width property to 100% and make it important. Just refresh this. Now you should see full width table. Control O or Control 0 to fit to screen. Now you can see the tables are now data tables. Fine. Now we are going to work on create and design the cashier page. So if you remember, we had 3 sections, so we are going to create the cashier page now. So if you forgot the URL, what you can do is you have to get into the, just collapse this. On the routes we have web.php, and if you just search the URL management, you should see those 3 tabs. So inside the management, which is available on resources, views, management, we have index file. Here it is, and at present it is blank. So instead of the on the route, which will be available as we already done this, you just have to pass home. So when they search for URL management, routes will do the redirection to index. It says index home is not found. So on the resource, views, so you see it's not inside management, it is just outside the views, so we can directly access it. Now you can see on the management and the cashier, so we can link the management. So if you notice on the home page, home.blade.php, so what we can do is we can add /category. So if I click on the management, it should redirect me to the CRUD operation. Fine. Now if you see, category, menus and table is available. Fine. As I said, let's work on the create. So if I click on this link, I want the home should open. So for that, on the home or on what? On the layout file we have app layout file, we have app.play.php, and over there we have the name. So there is a button, or you can see there is a link. So let's find where it is. That the link is this one. So if I hover it, I should see the link. So it's nav brand. Just copy this and search it over here. So we get the nav brand, and the URL is this one. What you can do is simply you can add management. So just by clicking on the management, it will lead you to the home page of this particular application. So that is going to be, let's add slash. So if you find management/management, what you can do is you can add slash just above there. So it will search on the current website. So now it's available. Click on management, and we have completed these three sections, and now we are going to work on the cashier section. Now let's work on it. So that is fairly simple. For the first thing is we have to use the URL. So on the home, so we need to create the URL, so which is cashier slash. What we can add is we need to give the URL. So let's give index, so just cashier. So let's create the controller for that. PHP artisan make controller. The controller name is going to the file structure is going to be cashier slash details. So this is the file structure, and we don't need to create the resources. So it says it has created successfully. So just collapses on the app, on the HTTP, on the controller. Here we have cashier folder. Inside the cashier folder we have details.php. So what we should have done is we should have created details, or you can say cashier controller, just to follow the things what we have already done. So we don't need this. Just delete this. Move to recycle bin. Now if you have noticed, we haven't used resources. The reason for that is we want to create the function manually. Likewise, if public function, the function name is going to be index, and it should return view, the view which we haven't created yet. So the folder dot index, the name of the file. So let's create the file on the resources, on the views, new folder which is going to be cashier. Over here create new file which is index.play.php, which will have nothing, just what the home has. Just copy this, and on the index.play.php just paste it. So we don't need this content inside. So here just type h1 cashier, and now we have to create the route. So when there's a request for URL category, I want the Laravel to find the page on cashier folder. Inside the cashier folder we have a function called index that will return the appropriate view. Just refresh it. If there is no error, we have to run the server first. PHP artisan serve. Now click on cashier. It says cashier, the capital C on the home.php. Just make this to small c. Refresh this. Click on cashier again. On the route, this is cashier, not category. Refresh this, and now you should see cashier. So of dashboard, we don't need custom CSS, we don't need app, we just need index. So here instead of dashboard, what we can do is cashier. Refresh this, and now we'll write. So in this section we are going to work on show all tables on cashier page. So this is a page which will show all the tables that we have added. So what we can do is, we don't need the call 8, let's make this call 12. Refresh this, your server is running. Now we need 2 buttons here with, let's add row. Inside row we have column 6 6, or in future we'll change it. So the first one will have the button or button with class btn and btn primary tab, and here show all tables or view tables. So now just above the row, what we need to add is, we need to add a div, table details. So this is a we can add a ID. So this is a div that will hold the Ajax value, or you can see the values of the database. So we'll use Ajax now. So if you see, once I click here, I want to show all the tables. So I, in the previous just now I have used, or I have shown you how to. So let's add a script here. So RIPT, inside script we'll add document dot ready. Inside the document dot ready, we'll create a function that will load once the document is ready. So once I click on this button, let's give the ID show table. So once I click on this ID, dollar as shown dot click function. Once I click on this ID, what should happen is, I want to just show the alert message. You clicked on button. Just refresh this. Once I click on the button, you should say that means our Jquery is working. So before doing that anything, we have added the Jquery CDN. So get that file on the views, on the layouts, on the app. We remove the CDN that we just added, because Laravel already comes with that. So in the app.js, there's a file called defer. If you remove this, your Jquery will be running. So click here, you see Jquery is also running now. We don't have to add the CDN. So let's remove the CDN, because we already have the files on our local system. And now once I click on the button, I want to give the get request, and this get request will get into the URL called cashier and get all tables. So on the callback function, we'll get the data, and we'll use this div to display the values. Dollar dot HTML, pass the data. Now we have to create this route. To create this route, get into web.php, and this is the URL, and the appropriate controller that is going to handle this, which we have created just now. On the app, on the HTTP, on the controller, we have cashier. So cashier slash, we have cashier controller, inside that we have a function called get tables. So we'll define this on the cashier controller function and what we return is, we'll return a string called HTML from controller. Just refresh this. Once I click on the view tables, the Laravel will get into the controller and the relevant function will display the values. There's an error. $get is notified. Actually, it is $.get. Now refresh this. There should be no console error. Click on view tables. Get cashier / all details. So slash just above here. So if there is no error, we should see the HTML. So we have to add this on web.php. We don't need this app. Cashier controller, we don't need this. We need this. So if there's a request for cashier, then get into the appropriate controller. Let's see now. Inside the, let's collapse this app, we have controller. Where is the controller? HTTP controller cashier. Make sure this is the file path. We have to add / for file path. Yes. Everything seems to be clear now. Just let's zoom in. So now we have to use a model on the controller. So the model name here is for table use table model. So access this, use the eloquent and get the value. Table details $, and from this we'll use for each over here, @for each as $t @end for each. Actually, it's not blade PHP, we have to use for each of PHP. So we'll get into the W3 school. So we'll define an empty HTML. We'll make this T, and this HTML will be concatenated with div class or you can add a row and end this row. Now let's add the column, call to. Let's close the column div. Now this will have a button. btn primary, close the button. So here we want to get the name of the table, so we can access the column name. So if you have followed my previous tutorial, you might have known the table name is the column name is name, and we should return the HTML. Fine. Now let's check. So what we can do is, we don't need to add a row, so that will cause an error, unusual error. So in the index page, let's add the class row here. Now if you refresh this, click view tables, Let's check there's an error. Server responded with server 50, server internal server error. So there seems to be an error. So the error is we have to use app. That's the reason it could not find the model. So let's try to append this dot. Now let's refresh this. Click on view tables. Again there's another. Let's see the other possibility. So we have used the tilde sign. Instead of tilde sign, why don't we use the double quotes, as we have used single quotes inside the class. Let's see, there seems to be no, there should not be any error. What is causing the error? This is for each and this is the function. Okay, we have to concatenate with dot save. So the dot should come over here. Fine. Returning the HTML, and why this error is showing up? Unexpected semicolon. There seems to be no error, but it shows error. There is no semicolon closed, or there is no anything that causes the error. Okay, now if you see, click on view tables, you should see the tables. Fine. Now let's add the image as well. Let's get into the flat icon. Let's download the appropriate SVG. I'm searching for tables, and I should get a table. Let's get this and download in the HTML format, sorry, SVG format. It says it is premium. We want the free one, not the premium one. Table. So if you notice, these stars are paid. So let's get this SVG, free download, paste this into your public folder. To access the public folder from controller, we can use a URL function. So we have to get into the proper folder on these. I think it is downloading it on the C drive. XAMPP, htdocs, Laravel, our folder, public, image. Just paste whatever is downloaded on the download folder. We have cut this, paste it, chair.svg is the name. Now let's add the image as well. img src equal to single quotes concatenate URL. You can find image slash chair.svg. If you want, you can add the class image. Let's try and refresh it. We should see the chair icon along with the button. Yep, we got it. So if you want, you can just add the height, width, color. Not working, fine, leave it. View tables. We're able to see the images, but it's too small, so let's remove the image class and give height of 150, the width of 150. Refresh this. Let's try it. View all tables. Fine, width is too much, I believe. Let's make it 100. Fine. To give the padding, we can add the padding as well, but we'll leave it as it is. So we can change the color from blue to warning. And now let's add some margin bottom of 5. 5 is the maximum one. Not working. Let's create. Let's see. It's margin top, it's margin bottom. We need it at the bottom, not on the top. View all tables. Fine. We are able to see the tables from the database. So now we are going to add the toggle effects. Like if I click on view tables, the table should view. I'll click again. I want the table to get hidden. So for that, what we can do is, it's the simple Jquery trick. Get the ID of the table, and we have this table. Sorry, not the table, the container which holds the table. Fine. Now when I click on the button, I want the div to be hide. And if the div as a function is colon hidden, if it is hidden, then use the Jquery else hide it again. We'll make this slide down, and here we make it slide up. Now let's see the difference. There is error, we can see it on the console. There is the semicolon, or you can see there is just click hence here, and this is for else part. So here this is if, and this is else. We want to remove this dollar. Dollar was causing the issue. And the cashier, we have to make this dollar here. There is a syntax error. again. So we have to take this hide outside. On load it should be hidden. Let's see again now. The syntax, it's my bad, my mistake. Now everything should work fine. Great. Now you can see it's toggling. Now along with the toggle, I want the text of the button to be changed. Call this get the button dot text close tables, and here view table. Just refresh this, the button should change. If I click here, it should be close tables. If I click again, it's view tables. Fine, that is working. Now along with that, let's add the relevant bootstrap class dot remove class. We want to remove the btn primary and add class btn danger. The opposite, it is danger, and this is primary. Now let's check. After clicking, the button should go red. Wait, close tables. Fine, this is working as we need. Now let's work on the other topic. Now in this section we are going to see or read all categories and display it over here. Now on the index file, you see we have cashier. This is cashier card body. Let's have a div with a row. Inside row we need to call 6 twice. The first one will hold a tables, and the second one will hold let's adjust it. The second one will hold the menus. So we'll add the menu right now. So before that, let's adjust this height and width of the image. $150. Let's get it to the controller. 150. Control B. 150. Refresh this. On the website again, let's add this 30. Refresh this. Fine, these are tables. Let's add the nav bar here. Now to get the menus, we have to get into the controller, and in the index, along with that, we want to pass the menu model as well, which is over here. Menu model. On the index file, get all the menus using the model, or this is categories, I believe. We don't need the menu, we need category, category, which can be seen over here. Geo categories, and pass this with function. And here it is variable, and here it is going to be the key. Now we have to modify the view as well, sorry, routes as well. So on the cashier, we have to just copy paste this. If there is a request for cashier only, then get into the function called index. And now on the index file over here, we can access. Let's get into the bootstrap 4 nav. We'll get the code from here and paste it. Let's see This seems to be appropriate. Just copy the whole nav and paste it. Let's see how does it looks. This is static HTML now. Now we have to run a for each @ for each @end for each. Now in place of links you can get the categories as $C . Now we will access this C to get the category name. $C we have name. Let's check whether we are able to get the categories on page load. So we have an error. So let's get into the migration file. I think we have used the name cat. So to check it, get into the database folder, migrations. Here we have categories and its name itself. We don't have to change it, its name only. And delete end for each. Replace this. So you can see the values is available. So let's add another category. Control O. Management. Let's add another category. We have breakfast, dinner, lunch. Click on submit and the lunch is added, which will be available on the next. Fine. Now if you get it over here on the management, on the cashier, we should see the lunch added. Fine, you can see these are the dishes. So now when I click here, this is also working. This seems to be too small, so I have just used control. Let's change the height on 50 and the width as 75. Fine. Now if you see, once I click here, I want the relevant menus to be available for this particular category. That's what we are going to do in the next section. Alright, in this section we are going to display the menus from the selected categories. So these are the categories which we have. Once I click here, I want the related menus to show up here. So just to save time, what I did is I have added some menus. You see, I have added these menus and download the relevant images and add it to the relevant category. So we have 5 breakfast, only 1 lunch, and 3 weekends, and 1 dinner. 2 dinner actually. So the breakfast is 5. So what we do is we'll give some breakfast item to lunch. So lunch, let's make this lunch. Fine. This changes to lunch. Submit. Changes to lunch. Submit. So management menu, lunch, we have 2 lunch. So there was an error. So what it was is, so on the menu controller we had used all over here. So it is not all, it is find, and we have to pass this ID. And on the same page we have used the index 0. Since we are getting all the values, we have used index. Now we don't have to use index. We can directly access the values since we are getting only 1 row because we have used find. And now let's work on the topic. Now here we want to display the list of menus. So for that, let me close these and collapse. So this page, cashier, on the cashier controller, and the page index, so here we have to create a div. Just below here, menu hyphen list. So this is a div which will hold the values. So now here we have to use data hyphen id, and we have to pass the menu id, sorry, category id. Now we are going to use Ajax. So for that the ID is required. So if I select here on the nav links, you should see the ID 4, the same way 5, the same way 11. So ID is available. Now we have to use the Ajax. When I click on the nav link, dollar hash, so just class dot click function, and I want to alert the data attribute, which is dollar this dot data id. Now we click on the menu link, the ID should be alerted 4, 5 and so on. Now we have to pass this ID to the Ajax, dollar dot get the URL cashier get menu from category slash and here we have to pass the ID plus cat underscore ID, and we'll return the data and get the menu list. We use class menu hyphen list dot html and pass the data. Fine. Now we have to use the route list. So collapse all, save this, collapse all. Now routes web.php, so here we have to pass these slash URL slash the ID cat underscore ID. Get will use the same URL get, and here it is going to be, sorry, the controller, here it is controller and the function is the same, control B. So this is the function which is going to handle public function name, and then we'll have the cat ID, $cat_ID, and now if you see, we have the category ID, and use a model, menu model, and we have to use the where clause, menu model, where the category ID, the table column name, then we have to pass this ID. So let's get into the migration file, database, migration, create menu, and we have cat ID. This is the column name, and we'll get the menu and we'll have the HTML onload should be blank, and after that we'll use for each, dot equal to we'll just pass the name. So the menu name, and then return the HTML. Let's see if there is no error. Click on dinner, weekend, breakfast, nothing is shown up. Console. Okay, it could not find the URL. Let's see on other controller how it is handled. HTTP controller management, this one. Not on controller. I want to see how this is handled. Actually, there should be only one curly brace. Let's try now. On the network, on all, on 4, there are no data coming. So that means we are able to pass the value 4, and from there I could not get any values. Let's add a div. Sorry for that. Now let's check. So if I click on dinner, preview, there is no data. So we'll cut this and type anything, and if I click on dinner, let's see again. Yes, I could able to get values but not the database value. Why is that so? Why? Fine. Let's see what is the mistakes that we are causing. Why don't we pass this menu over here? Click on dinner. Object to class, there is an error. Okay, this is not, this is an object, so we cannot convert it to string. That's what it's saying. Fine. So last time we have added space and try to solve it the same way. Let's try to do it again. So here I want to show the menu HTML. We'll use the same thing, but instead menu $m. Let's try again. Yeah, it was totally the mistake of not using the function get. I have tried so many things, but at the end, what was the mistake is we have to use get. Fine. Now let's add an anchor tag. data-id equal to, again we have to use menu ID. Now if you see, now let's add the image as well. imgsrc equal to we have the column name image, I believe. Inside the folder we can access the public folder directly without using anything. It's inside uploader_mg. Height 150, width 150. So you see, now instead of 4 we'll get into the HTML, get into the menu list, and I had here row, and now that is working. Along with that, there is a little jerk. To stop that, we'll hide this and then we'll show it. Fade in fast. Click on weekend. Fine. Now along with that, let's show the price as well. Let's add this inside div with class text center. Fine. The next thing, the same way, copy this and paste it one more time, and here it is going to be price. How do I know? Because it's a column name. Let's add this inside a function called number format. You see, .00 is removed, and then if you want, you can add a rupees. Weekend, breakfast, lunch. Great. This is what we actually needed. So let's try to add one more item to the dinner, and let's check. We have only one item on the only one menu on the dinner, so let's add one more thing. That means I'm not going to, I'm just edit it. I'm going to edit it. So before that, let's see what is the thing that has not man. If I want to get into cashier, I just want to see which has more menus. Weekend has 3, great. Breakfast has 4, lunch has 3. So I'll take this from the breakfast. We'll take the seafood. We'll take the seafood and make this as an dinner. Click on submit. Now seafood menu updated. Now if I refresh this and click on dinner, there should be 2 values. Great, that's what we need, but it's actually working as per our needs. So now what we are going to do is, once I click on the table, if I click here, I want to display the table name over here, just below here. So for that, we have to get into the controller, and here let's give the button name btn selected table, and inside we have image, and this button will have data id equal to sorry for that, we'll use the id the same way. We'll use the name. So let's refresh it and inspect this and check it again. View table. So once I select a table, the button should have the table ID and table name. Fine, that is working. Now we have to use Jquery $. we have to get the parent, replace the class here. We have to get this parent, which is table details. On load, this div won't be appear, but after clicking, the data retrieved from the retrieved by Ajax. Why I'm writing this is because this div would be there even on load, on page load. So if I search this on HTML, this is available. If you see, this is already available because on page load. But this class will only be applicable after clicking. So for that, I'm writing this using on. If it is available on page load, I would be writing like this. So we call this as event delegate in Jquery, and that's a long chapter. We are not getting into it. So with this dot data, and we will pass the ID, and we'll store this as selected table. What happened? Table ID. And again name, because we have just passed this. Selected table name. So once I click on it, I want this div to have HTML, and we'll design the HTML. BR HR horizontal row, and in between I want to display the selected table. Let's check. Not over here, I'm sorry for that. We have to create a div. Just before, just after. Where the row completes. View table. So we'll place this here. We'll have a ID, show selected table. So we'll add the HTML on show selected table. Select any table. You see, it is working. The selected table is available. So if you want, you can add this inside H3 as well. So this is working. Now if I select the seafood, these two should be matched and the display over here. That's what we are going to do now. So fine. Now if you see, if I click on dinner and I select a table, and after selecting these two, I want the table name and the menu that is ordered on a particular table name to be stored on a database. So the very first thing what is going to happen is we are going to select these two values. Once I select these two values, I will send an Ajax request, post Ajax request, and that value will be stored on the database. So what is the reason? Now you might have understood, it's because of the payment. At a particular table, a particular menu is ordered on a particular time. That's the main reason. Now if you see, we have to get into the cashier So on the resources, views, cashier, index, we have to get the menu ID. So from the controller, and this is for table, this is for menu. Let's add a class called btn selected menu. So once I click on this, so the function, so we have to select the parent. So let's click on inspect and check the parent from here, because we are going to add an event. Who is the parent menu list? The same way, dollar menu list on here. Actually the first parameter is going to be click. On click, I want to get this dot attribute called data ID and store it as selected underscore menu underscore ID, and will alert this. Press this, undefined, because we are getting undefined because the data is not properly getting the ID. So actually we have to pass this ID to the selector menu. Selected menu and the data should come over here. Now let's select. Now we are able to fetch the menu ID. Great, that is working. Now there should be a condition like if I select menu should not be selected. Menu won't be allowed to selected unless I select the table. So for that we have the selected name and selected. So we'll store this as a global variable. And we have to send a post request if selected table is null, then show the alert that menus can't be selected unless table is selected, else then we can display the selected menu. Now let's check. We should get an alert message. Menus can't be selected unless table is selected. Okay, so just refresh this, and now let's select the table and then select the menu. Now ID should be there. Now this time we'll send a post request. So for Ajax we'll use Jquery Ajax. $.ajax is a function that we would be working on, and inside that we need to pass the object to the Ajax function. So that's what we are going to see. This is the basic. URL, and there are many things that we need to pass. The method, or you can call it type, and the URL which we will be passing to the cashier controller. Cashier controller slash. So what we can do, we'll give the name afterwards. So we will be getting the request result, and we'll be passing the result to the div over here. So let's select this from the inspect. Show selected. So just below here we'll select one more thing, menu and table. We need to pass token as well. And now if you see, whenever we submit any values to the form or using post request, we are supposed to use the cross-site reference that we pass it as a token. So that's what I did now. Now we have the selected menu, we have to pass this, and then we have selected table name, and then we have selected table ID. This is table ID, and the quantity is passed as a hardcode value, which is 1, and I have changed the route URL to order food. So let's get into the web.php, routes, web.php. So we have given the URL as order food. So we'll use the same URL as a function name. So on the cashier controller, public function name, then we will be having request $request, because we need to pass these values. Like we can access these values with the help of, so let's return $request, and let's click enter. Once I click here, we should get the ID. Not working, so there is an error. The server responded with the status 404 order food. So on the controller web.php, so let's try to return some other thing other than hello. If you directly select the menu, it will say an alert. So we'll select the table and then select the number. It says there is a request error, order full. On the network tab, we have ordered food, method not allowed. I think it is method. Let's refresh and try again. Request method, status code 405 not allowed. Let's see what it is. So actually there is a mistake on get. We are passing post, not get. I have read it from the Stack Overflow. Select a table, select a dish, and we are getting hello. Let's change it to the request menu ID. And now we are going to work on the sales section. Once we click the table and the related menu ordered, so the order details will be converted to sales. So for that we need to insert the values on the database. So first we have to create the database. We have already created the database. Now we have to create a table. So these are the table columns which we need to create right now. So we'll be using command prompt to use the table. PHP artisan make model sale with migration files. Once, and we need one more. It says sale is created. We can check this on the database migration sales. So here we have to create the relevant columns. Now let's create the other table. Control C. The same way, sale and detail. Click enter. C PHP artisan serve. Now once we create, we have to migrate it. So this is sales. We need some columns, string or integer. We have table ID, we have table name, we have user ID, we have username, we have total price, total received, change, payment type, and sales status. So here this is going to be integer. This is going to be integer. We want to be string. I think these three better suits for decimal. Let's check. Let's make this decimal. ECIMAL. Total price, total received, change. Now let's add the default values. the total price default value is going to be 0. Since it's a number, we don't have to pass it inside string. And then this is also 0. All three of them is going to be 0. Now this is going to be string. This is going to be either cash or credit, and this is going to be either paid or unpaid. Now let's work on the other, which is salesDetails. The same way, so here sale ID, which is a foreign key, menu ID, which is again a foreign key, menu name, which is going to be string, menu price, quantity, and finally status. The default is going to be no confirmation, not confirmed. Everything seems right. Now let's migrate it. PHP artisan migrate. These two tables will be created to check it on the database. Browse, click on this database. You should see sales with the relevant table name which we have created, along with sales details. Fine. And now if you see, once I click on table, I think server is running. Yep. Once I click on table and then click on a menu, we are running a post request, and we want to insert the values on the sales table. So first what we are going to do is, let's get all the values. We are going to get table ID, table name, and let's store this. Table name. Now what we are doing is, we have to save this value. So let's pass this inside a menu model. We have already menu model here. Menu model, find the ID of the menu and store it menu. And now if you see, table ID we have, table name we have to log in. So let's log in. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8. this we have created. I have created the account and I'm logged in now. So we want to insert the details, user ID and username with the ID which we have logged in. Then we need to insert total price. So let's see. And now let's insert these values into the sale model, into the sale database. So for that we have to use the model. So inside the app, sale is there and sale detail is there. This is sale and this is sale detail. And now we want to only insert the value if there is no details available on the particular table. So on the sale details, sale table, where is the sale table? We want to only insert the value when there is no table ID of the particular table is available. So let's get the sale model and find the or use the where clause, where table underscore ID is equal to the table ID and again where and this time we should use where like this. Where order status, where is the status? Yes, sale status is equal to unpaid. We want to get the first column. And we have the variable sale. If there is first column, then we'll have the sale. If there is no first column, then we are free to insert the values. If there is no first column or there is no data, then we can insert. Then we can create the new sale object, obj underscore sale. Let's add $. With this we can access the column names. And with this we can insert we can get the values from the input field. Likewise we have to insert. Let's see what are the things that we are going to do now. We are going to insert table ID, which we can access with this. We don't need to refer request. The second one, table name, which is the column name, and this is the variable name that holds the table name from the input field. And then we need user ID, username. So to get the user ID and username, we have to use eliminate support let's see from the Google, get logged in user ID Laravel. So we need to use auth. this is the thing. And we can access the user by this. Over here we'll use, and with this user we can get the ID. With this user we can get the name. You see ID. Fine. Now after username and password, let's work on these. After these, what we'll do is I'll comment this and we'll save this much value into database. Save. And after saving, we'll get the ID and we'll save this into a variable called $sale_ID. So this ID, we will get the ID after saving this value. So this is the primary key. On next vector, and after saving and after getting the ID, what we need to do is we want to make this table as unavailable. So we have table model, colon find, and the ID we will receive as table ID $table. Table has a column called status and we want to make it as unavailable, and we want to save the table. And now else, and you guessed it right. So this is for if there is a value already inserted on the table. What if there is no value inserted on the table? In that case, we just have to get the sale ID. From this where clause. That's it. And now after saving the values from sale, now it's time for sale details. We have to store values on the sale details table. And now let's store the values inside the sale detail table. So for that we have already used the model, so we'll access the model and we'll create an object equal to $. So we can access the column names and store the values here. Now let's add the column name, which is sale ID. We have the sale ID either from the value available or the value not available. The second one, menu ID, we have already used. We could get the row, and then it has a primary key, and then menu name. With this we can access name as well, and then menu price. With this we can access price, and then quantity. With this we can access, nope, we won't be getting quantity from here, we will be getting quantity from the request. $request quantity. So if you remember, we have passed this on a checks. equal to 1, and then we have status. We're not going to set the status for now, and we'll save the values. After saving, we want to update the price, total price from the sale. So here to avoid confusion, what we'll do is Control H and replace this with the sale, replace all. So now get the sale, and it has a column called total price, then plus, by default it is going to be 0, if you remember it is default 0, and then total price into it is going to be quantity into the price. So get this value into get this quantity. And after saving, we want to save the sale detail as well. So now we will return sale total price just for testing. Now by default, let's check both the tables. Let me show you in 2 tabs. This is going to be sale, and this is going to be sale details. By default it is going to be blank, so let's add. I'm going to select a table A1, and I'm going to order. So they have ordered biryani, so these 2 values should be saved into the sale table. So you see these 2 values are saved inside the sale table. You see total price is updated automatically. And now here also it is updated twice. Let me check why. And again, if I select, refresh it again, and let's do one more time. A1 is already there, so click on A1 and let's click dinner and seafood. So if you browse here, there won't be any change, but there will be a change of price because we have added the condition. But now if you click browse, here there is a seafood and it is inserting twice. Let's see what is the thing that is causing to insert twice. But our logic is working fine, our total price is also working fine. Total price is 1500, so we are getting 1500, and the only problem is we are inserting these value twice. Maybe it's because of double click function. So let's add this selected button to the image and check. So on the cashier controller, let's get these values 1 and give it to the image. And then data ID, refresh this, and now let's check whether the data is getting inserted twice or not. A1 tandoori. Again double time inserted. So I have solved it. So what was the mistake is we have to stop the event propagation. So I have commented all the Ajax part and just checked with the ID. So if I click, previously it was because of event propagation it was clicking twice. Now if I remove it and check, now there is no event propagation sorry, there is a event propagation, so you can see it will be multiple times. Now I have stopped it by using the function event.stop event propagation. So you want to add the event as a parameter. So let's uncomment this and try to, let's delete this and let's delete all, check all, delete. And now let's check with our process. So I'm selecting a table, I'm selecting the order which is ordered by the table A1, they ordered biryani. So these values will be available on sales and on sale detail, and now it is once. So now we have written the price. Now again A1, so after some times again A1 ordered, again A1 ordered seafood. Now the table won't be updated, but there is 2 orders. Fine, it is working as we need. Now let's work on the display part. Fine, now let's work on the display part. Over here, instead of returning the price, I want to return the HTML. So let's define the HTML. So this is going to be the table dot equal to table class table responsive table responsive, then close the table, and then we have table head, then we have table row, inside table row, table head, table data, the first one is ID, the second one is name, and then quantity, price, total, and then we have status, and then we have table body, and now what we do is we'll separate these values. And in between we'll run a for each loop. So get the table details colon all, not all, where table ID, where sale ID equal to the sale ID which we receive, and the get function, and store it into a variable called salesDetails, and use this for each as $sale details. sale details, and again we are going to concatenate table row. Then we have table data. Inside the table data we'll use this to get the menu. So this have menu name, here the columns. Likewise this is ID. So we'll use concatenation. Then we have quantity, then we have price, and then we have total price, and then we have status. Total price can be accessed over here. So it's just a calculation that we have to do. Then total price into the quantity. Now let's try. If there is no error, dot. Let's check. Fine. Table 1 ordered kebab. Fine. You see all the values are available. Let's style this table a bit. So this seems to be okay for just table. Fine, get the table value. Fine, these values are available. Quantity, price, total, status, and the menus. And now it seems to be working as we need.